This podcast is sponsored by Velo Yellow, providing bike transport to events across Europe. Website link available in the podcast description.
You are an Ironman!
Welcome to episode 70. Today I'm joined by Lyndsey Blair. Lyndsey, you're very welcome onto the podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great stuff. Lyndsey, you and I have some chatting to do because the timeline I have in front of me is just absolutely mind-blowing. We're going to come to that in a wee minute. What about where this journey started, Lyndsey, for you? Tell us a wee bit about yourself and your journey into triathlon.
Yeah, so I'm Lyndsey. I'm 44 now and I've got 3 children. But yeah, growing up, I was a swimmer as a kid. Made my poor mum sit at the side of the pool for endless swim sessions, early mornings, late nights. But naturally gave up swimming. I mean, I was never amazing. I was okay, swam at sort of West District level, but kind of got fed up of the early mornings when I was about 16 or 17. And didn't really swim for a long time after that. Here and there, maybe on holiday, I'd do a short session, but kind of completely gave it up. And I would say probably in my 20s, early from that time until I had my first baby when I was 26. So from that time until I was 26, I kept fit, but nothing you would call remarkable, just the gym here and there. And then I had my 3 children. I had 3 under 3. And that was done 2008, 2009, 2010. So they were pretty much my focus for that time. And then in my early 30s, my best friend at the time had said to me, hey, will you do an open water swim with me? Which I said, an open water swim? I've never done that before. But I thought it could be quite amusing because she wasn't a swimmer. Like she could swim, but only just. And I thought this could be quite amusing for me, having to watch her, flap about in the open water, let alone a pool. So I was like, yeah, naturally. I said yes. She was my best friend. She wanted to do it in memory of her mum, who had sadly passed away from breast cancer. So we did it for charity. And while we were training for that, she said to me, a guy at my work is a member of the local tri club and they've got a swim session on Monday night, suggested I go along, will you come? And I said, again, thought this has got to be funny because she can't swim. So yeah, Gillian, I'll come with you. And also for me, it was like a break from my kids for an hour. It was something I thought, right, Monday night, 8 till 9, they should all be in bed. My husband can cope with that. He's normally in at that time on a Monday. So it became a regular thing. I would go to the tri club on a Monday night. Mm-hmm. So we did an open water swim and she survived, didn't drown, and she raised an amazing amount of money. So that was a success. But then we both stayed on at the tri club actually and got roped into, will you do a come and try, a charity event? Oh my goodness, that was so hard. Why did they do these come and tries with like a massive hill on the bike when you're first one? I was like, I'm never doing that again. That was horrendous. But yeah, just really enjoyed the social side of the triathlon club, and it got me out of the house and chatting to adults, which when you've got 3 under 3, it's quite isolating. And I wasn't working. I was, they were my full-time job, as you can imagine. And I just really enjoyed that adult time on a Monday. So it became it became a hobby very quickly because I realised, if I went swimming, my husband couldn't phone me and say, the 3 kids are crying, can you help? So I knew it would have to be something like really important for him to like phone reception at the pool and be like, hey, can you get Lyndsey out of the pool? Which obviously never happened. So I quickly found that I had real peace in the pool. Mm-hmm. And then I cottoned on to that really quite quickly. So I started to go swimming, whenever I could, if my mum and dad would have the kids, and fell in love with it completely. And then did sprint triathlons, standard triathlons, and then set a goal of a half Ironman in 2014. So I did 70.3 Exmoor, which is no longer actually, which is probably a good thing. It was a horrendously hilly course again. Oh my goodness. And then just absolutely loved the Ironman vibe. Got and was just really enjoying the training. It gave me a sense of purpose. And I think when you are at home by yourself with kids all day, and I wasn't working at that time, and yeah, just kind of lost my sense of identity to a point. And well, if you know me now, everyone will say triathlon now is 90% my personality. I love it, I live it, I breathe it, I'm addicted to it. But it's a large part of who I am and what I do. And yeah, I just absolutely love it. And then set a goal after that half Ironman. I was like, okay, that didn't reach my limits there. I can do a full Ironman, and did Ironman Frankfurt in 2015, which was a real challenge because it was, I think the weather was 42 degrees Celsius. But I had committed to doing it. I'd done the training, and we had a large group from the triathlon club went out, and the people I was with that had done Ironman before were all like, this is crazy, this should be cancelled. I was like, well, we're here now, and if it's on, I'm doing it. And it was, and the road was melting, and there was people in ditches all over the place, and I was out in the bike course, and all I could hear was sirens, and I'm just thinking, this is awful, but I am getting to the end of it. Because I think, especially your first Ironman, like, you've committed to it and you so want to achieve it. Probably if it was one now, I'd be like, no, I'd still do the same because I can't quit. So
It kind of
yeah.
sounds like, whenever you first find out what is involved in doing a full distance triathlon, there is sirens going off in your head, and it's always nice to think back and reflect on that first finish line.
Oh, it was a mixture of relief mainly that I had made it there in one piece, and that I had achieved the goal I set out to do. Yeah, it was. I think for that one, I had trained so hard for that. I think with your first one, you don't know what you're signing yourself up to or how hard it's going to be, and I'd put the work in for that, and then didn't get the conditions, to have a PB date. Well, I didn't know what PB was at that time, so I did get a PB, didn't I? Because it was my first Ironman. But yeah, I think getting the first one in the bag for me was just, oh yes, I've done it. Like the relief of setting out to achieve something that you wanted to do. And not failing, because there's so many things that can go wrong, isn't there? So, and some of them are not just you quitting. You could, mechanicals and all sorts. So I think when it's solely down to you to get from start to finish and you've not had anything adverse happen, it's just, I'm so relieved and ecstatic and proud, I think. Especially my kids were young and it had taken quite a lot of logistical issues to fit the training in. I was up early, I was training late at night. I was training with, I would be doing workouts with them round about me. So yeah, it'd been a real challenge to get to the start line on that one, never mind the finish line. So I think it was relief that I hadn't let anyone down and I hadn't let myself down, and I was just bloody proud of myself, to be honest.
Damn right you are to be proud as well. There's nothing easy for any of us.
No.
Doing triathlon, and particularly the training that's involved for a full distance, but with a young family, it's very, very difficult to juggle it. Thinking back, Lyndsey, you had already mentioned that you were fairly proficient at the swimming. How
Yep.
did you find the training with regards to the bike and the run? Did they come naturally to you off the back of your fitness, or was it a long process for you?
Oh, I'm still learning. No, I
Good
no,
answer.
completely from a swimming background. I think most people that come into triathlon have either got a running background or a cycling background, or are quite good at them and struggle with the swim and think that actually if you're strong at swimming it should be easy. But actually for me, once I get out of the water, my race goes downhill considerably. I find the bike, I always find the first half of the bike, I'm like, go out too hard, I'm on fire, this is great, and then I struggle. The second half is just horrendous. And it doesn't matter how many you do. And I just find I'm not the strongest athlete. Like I'm quite light and aero, but I don't have the power that a lot of these women or girls have, which I aspire to have. I still find the bike and the running difficult, to be honest. But yeah, just keep plugging away at it.
That's the way to do it. Yep, you just keep chipping away, and you clearly did that very, very well, because the next year after your first Ironman red carpet in Frankfurt, you went full distance again and completed the Outlaw Triathlon.
Yes.
How did that compare to the razzmatazz of the Ironman event?
So there was a reason I went back to do Outlaw, and it was after at the finish line in Frankfurt. I mentioned that we went out as a tri club, and I think there was 10 of us started, and unfortunately, really sadly, one of the team didn't make it home. They suffered with hyponatremia after the race and passed away.
Wow.
Which obviously took away, obviously when I went over the finish line, I did not know this. This gentleman had finished way ahead of me, but I didn't know at this point of anything that had happened. So it wasn't until later that evening we all found out as a triathlon club what had happened, and therefore you can imagine the celebration and the elation and the joy all disappeared completely.
Mm-hmm.
We were all in shock. We were all really shook up, and kind of mad at ourselves for doing the race, if I'm honest, but grateful that we were all okay, but obviously deep in grief that one of our team members hadn't been so lucky. And I think that's the real lesson I've learned from when you push your body and do extreme things in extreme heat. It doesn't always work out the way you think it will or hope it might, and there is a real risk with everything we do. So off the back of that, the following year, I felt I had to do it again, but didn't have the time commitment to put into the training straight away, or didn't want to go away and do it abroad and risk the heat. So I signed out for Outlaw with my dad, actually, and didn't really do the training for it, if I'm honest, and had just said to my dad, I was like, well, we went on a family trip to Centre Parks, I think, and took all the kids, and I said, but Dad, I'm just going to do it. I hadn't planned to do it. And then I said, I'm just going to do it. It's just a long day out. It's just a long swim, which I know I can do. And then it's a long bike ride and it's a long run. And I said, I will get round and I'll do it with you. And that'll be really special. So yeah, and with Outlaw, as you know, you can run down the red carpet with your kids. So I did make it to the red carpet. It was a long day. It wasn't my fastest time. In fact, it was slower than Frankfurt, I think by an hour. But hadn't put in the work and got to run down the red carpet with my kids, and I was able to celebrate that a bit better. So yeah, not the happiest of outcomes after my first Ironman, and a real few lessons learned for sure.
Absolutely. And sobering a reminder there, the importance of making sure that you are ready to go and that you're ready to race, and to listen to your body, and to take in those external factors, the heat and your hydration and whatever else. And I suppose we can never fully prepare for the unknown. And I guess, as you say, it's a risk that we all kind of run. But look, you got there. That was a special moment, crossing the red line with the children and all. Absolutely amazing memories, particularly for them, and for you and your dad. And I know your dad was an ultra runner back in the day too, so it must have been quite special for him seeing the wee girl following in his endurance footsteps too, I suppose.
Yeah, he got mechanical on the bike and didn't finish, so I actually don't think he's done an Ironman yet, which I find rather amusing. I know. Well, we've got a bit of family competitiveness going on there between my dad and my brothers and my husband.
You're putting them all to shame at the minute, so you
Oh,
have
I'm winning.
bragging rights.
I'm winning.
Absolutely. So talk me through then from 2016, sort of over the next 4 or 5 years, how things worked out for you. You continued on your triathlon journey, to say the least.
I did. I think I just loved it, and I still love it, still the same. And then after that, I then had to go. I said, right, I've done Ironman, so I then decided I have a goal. Okay, I want to race with a GB age group team. So I made it my personal mission. I was like, I'm going to qualify, and I had to be smart about this, by the way, because I'm not the fastest. So I had to really work out this, my chances of qualification races and plan where I was going. And at that point, you could sort of see start list, who's going to race against. And I made it my mission to qualify for sprint tri, duathlon, and aquathon. And I wouldn't settle my brain until I'd done that. So thankfully, I was able to to be successful in that, and went on to race with GB in sprint tri and aquathon. Aquathon was a bit more my strength than the sprint, but I really just wanted to get out and experience and wear the GB suit, and it was super cool at the time, and I'm so glad I went down that route. But I did quickly realise after that I wasn't fast and that I needed to go back to long distance stuff quite rapidly. So yeah, I was super proud to have achieved another thing that I'd set out to do, but yeah, it wasn't something I wanted to continue long term. And that's not to say I wouldn't revisit it when I get older, or particularly aquathon, because I think I can possibly, maybe, if I put the right training in, do all right in that. But the other ones, not for me. But yeah, it was a good goal, and I ticked it off.
Brilliant stuff. The fast and furious world that is sprint triathlon, it's a different animal, isn't it?
Sure is. Oh.
I'm too long in the tooth for all that fast stuff. I do give it a crack, but my top speed's maybe only third gear at this stage. Like, but
I was all right in the swim, but then, as I said before, you got to go backwards the minute I get on the bike. So I was a real losing battle from then on in.
So you went on and did multiple Ironman events, multiple 70.3 races. And there's another very interesting event that I want just to quickly touch on, is the Keltman, the X-Tri up in Scotland.
Yep.
Talk me through that one. I know that is extreme.
Yeah, that was me thinking I need to do something harder. And in between, so that was 21, I think I did Keltman, or 19, 21. Between racing GB and setting another goal, my best friend that had got me into triathlon, that I'd started the Tri Club with, she had been suffering from cancer and sadly passed away in 2018 at age 36. So she'd been fighting breast cancer, and I lost her, and that was a real shock, and probably never get over it, to be honest, because it was her that got me into it. But I felt even more compelled to do it for both of us. And not that she raced as much as me, she didn't. She stopped at the open water swim and the common try. That was enough for her. But she was always massively enthusiastic for everything I did, and was like my biggest supporter. And we had talked about Keltman, and I had said, I'm going to do that one day. And she's like, yeah, I know you will. So when I had applied for it, wasn't sure I'd get a spot, was lucky enough to get a spot. And it was a massive goal. It was so it's a 3.4k swim, but in like super cold water up by Shieldig. And then it's a 200k hilly bike. But oh my goodness, the scenery is amazing. A really tough bike, but you are so rewarded. Until the last 20k, when you're just hit with the most horrific headwind that you think I swear I was going downhill and I was going 7 kilometres an hour. I pretty much felt as though I was going backwards. I could not get to the end of that bike course. And then the run is over Benny, so it's basically the height of 2 Munros. So a lot of meters of climbing. So you summit the first hill, which isn't a Munro, but it's the height of, or just shy of one, and then it's Benny, over Benny and down. And there's quite tricky cut-offs in it, but cold swim, hard bike, hard run, longer than an Ironman, but incredible scenery. Very long day out, but absolutely beautiful. And I was terrified I wasn't going to make the run cut off, so I ran the first half of the run really hard and then just enjoyed the second half, because there is no cut off for the finish line after you make that cut off. Yeah, but I really enjoyed it. For that race, the main difference for me in that race to say an Ironman is you have your own support crew. So I was lucky enough to have my dad, my husband, and my friend in the car, and you could have, they basically have whatever I needed ready, so I could have soup or, your own food, so you didn't have to carry it. You're not relying on aid stations. So that made that race really special for me to have them, obviously not in the swim, but then out on the bike course with me at certain meet points. And then on the run, my brother ran the first half. You're allowed a support runner, or actually it's mandatory in the second half to have a support runner, but you can have one in the first half. So I had my brother run with me, and then my husband run with me. So I think for me that just made that race really special, and the community in X-Tri is incredible. Just a very different vibe to Ironman, but I would encourage anyone to give it a try. it's community like no other, and it's just a real good feel good race.
It sounds unbelievable. I have spoken to athletes on the podcast before about it, and there's something quite special about it. Just listening to your enthusiasm and the fondness of at which you think back to that, you can get that sense from me that it is something pretty unique.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely phenomenal thing to be able to do anyway, but to be able to do that and share that with families, something special. Now, not put off by Keltman, which is longer than Ironman and harder than Ironman. If I was you at this point, I'd be thinking, right, well, I've pretty much done it all now at this stage. I have done Ironman, I have done Keltman, I have done this, that, and the other. What could possibly be more challenging then? So I presume you had a wee bit of a think to yourself and then decided that you would go back to the swimming.
Oh yeah, I applied for a slot for Norseman and I've still not got one. I've been unsuccessful for that. So I'm still waiting for that Norseman slot. So in the meantime, I needed something else. And I was lucky enough when I used to go to swim team back in the day as a kid. I swam with two really inspirational women. One is a lady called Jane McCormick and the other is a lady called Maggie Kidd. And Jane went on to be a channel swimmer, and Maggie is the youngest person to have ever crossed the North Channel. She's much older than me. That was back in the day. And I always had them in the back of my mind. And I used to swim with Jane regularly, and she went on and she's done amazing things in open water. So when it came to this point in my life, I kind of thought, hang on a minute, if Jane can do it, maybe I can do it. And this started to seed in my brain. And then one day I just woke up and I thought, I'm going to apply for a slot. That's it. I need to do this. I don't know what it's like. It was been manifesting in me, I think. And I thought to myself, I'm going to have to put weight on to do this. That's not going to be fun. And that was a real challenging process in actual fact for me, which I know is backwards for a lot of people. But anyway, I went onto the Channel Swim website and worked out how to email you get a set amount of boats that are official pilot boats, emailed them all, when have you got availability, and was fortunate enough, one came back and said, right, I can take you in September 2022. And I think I only applied maybe the year before, and I thought it was going to be a 2-year wait, and sometimes it is, or more. And I was just locked in, and I thought, okay, I've applied now, I've paid my fee, and I'm going to do this. And that whole year training for the channel was, I learned so much in that year. I had to put myself in so many really uncomfortable training swims, and quickly learned that the cold was, I knew that the channel was going to be cold, right? And that I was going to be uncomfortable. And so I set about doing my training. I did so many uncomfortable things. I swam, and I went down to Dover in a training camp with Jane and her business. She's got an open water swim company now, and they ran a channel training camp. And we went in swimming at night in the sea. We swam with boat practice, swimming beside the boat at night, which was something I'd never experienced in my life. I mean, swimming in the dark is one thing, but swimming in the ocean in the middle of the night is another.
It's a different level of spook.
Yeah, and I had never done any cold water swimming, and as I said, I was still trying to put on body fat to protect me from the cold. And then we were swimming in Dover Harbour one day, and she said, right, we're going to do a long swim, do as long as you can. And I was swimming beside a guy, Dave, who was a larger athlete than me, but not as good a swimmer maybe, or maybe not as fast, it would be the right thing to say. So we swam together, and I just kept turning around to him and being like, am I still alive? Like I was freezing, and I was in 11 degree water for an hour and a half. Jesus. And really had to lean into learning the signs of hypothermia, aftershock. While I'm swimming, I was quite far out from the shore and like crunching my hands together. Okay, I can still move my hands. Asking myself, what's my name? Where do I live? Making sure my cognitive brain function's still there. Honestly taking myself to the proper, near hypothermia, and then the aftershock when you come out. Yeah. And for me, training for the channel was 80% mindset and 20% physical. I really worked on believing it. I don't set out to do things. that I don't believe I can do. And I think that's a really important lesson. Like, if I didn't think I could swim the channel, I wouldn't attempt it. And from what I have experienced now, I've learned that mindset is everything, and grit, determination, stubbornness, all qualities that I would say are strengths of mine now. I didn't know this before. Channel swimming teaches you lots about yourself that you just didn't know, I guess. But yeah, I think channel training, I put in lots of miles, put on weight, but putting myself in, getting really comfortable being uncomfortable was the biggest thing I did to train for it. I swam I stay in the west coast of Scotland, and I swam from Millport to Largs and back, which is a really freezing cold body of water. There's a ferry that goes, by the way. That would have been easier to take the ferry. Everyone else did. I just had a little kayaker, I had a seal swimming beside me, nosy little things them. It was an incredible swim, but the jellyfish were I can't even tell you the size of them, massive. I've never been so cold in my life, and the conditions that day were horrendous. If you know the west coast of Scotland, you know our weather, and it is not the warmest place to swim. So I think the point I'm trying to make is, when I did do my swim on the 20th of September 22, I jumped off the boat in Dover. I had my husband and Beth, my niece, who are my sturdy channel crew, have been with me in every swim I've done. I jumped into that water, and the minute I jumped off the boat to swim to shore to start the swim, I knew I was going to be fine. I got in, I was like, 17 degrees, this is toasty, you know. It sounds cold, but I'd done so much preparation that I knew when I got in, I was feeling great. This is on, swam in, you know, and I had a great swim for me, fairly uneventful. That getting in to France after 14 hours and 12 minutes of swimming. The current's particularly brutal at the end, trying to get in there. But I missed the cap, but I made it. But had a neap tide, a relatively calm. It's choppy at times, but nothing notable per se. But yeah, that's my channel swimming experience in a nutshell.
What was going through your mind then for 14 hours? Do you drift away? Do you be chatting away to yourself? Do you be thinking about what colour you're going to paint the dining room when you get back home? What sort of things is going on in your head during that time? And that's a long time to be on your own. With Ironman, with triathlon, you're looking at the road, you're anticipating corners, you're thinking about your hydration, your fluid, hills coming up, and biking and gearing, and there's a lot of things going on in the environment that kind of keeps your mind ticking over. What did you do? What strategies did you employ whenever you were in the water for that length of time?
Absolutely, it is a long time in your own head, and I think the main difference for me from channel swimming to Ironman is, with Ironman you've got other people around, and you can, I guess, effectively, once the swim's over, you can stop if you want to, right? You can get off your bike, you can sit at the side of the road. In a channel swim, once you start, you cannot stop. You can't touch the boat, you can't talk to anyone really. So what's going through my head is usually singing. But funnily enough, like, I'll sing the same one line over and over and over. Yeah. Just whatever song was playing in my earpods before I started, I'd pick one line, and I do remember the actual song. For the first time I did it, I had that Big City Life. I was just singing Big City, over and over and over. I don't even like that song. And I spent a lot of time looking at my crew thinking, I wonder what they're doing, or I wonder what they're eating. Oh, is Beth having another nap? Oh, is Beth going to the toilet? Just like, yeah. Or I'd be thinking about, random things. Oh, there's a jellyfish, or that's a horrible bit of seaweed. Kind of just taking in my environment. And if I started to get bored, I would bring myself back I got certain mantras I would say to myself about, I have a fear of failure in a sense of this. I've told everyone I'm going to do this. And the biggest thing for me would have, failing that challenge that I had told everyone I was going to do and set out to do, told my children I was going to do. Like, failure was a major driver for me. I couldn't fail. And I think that goes back to the mindset of, I know I can do it, but I also know that sometimes Mother Nature has other ideas, and, the weather changes, the pilot can pull you out for safety. But I knew I wouldn't quit. But yeah, I would tell myself things like, okay, you haven't come this far, just to come this far, or all those little quotes. I'd be positive self-talk, I think. And yeah, that was my first experience of that. But I think I'm okay in my own head. I didn't get too bored, so I think I'm quite good company actually.
It sounds like you're all right. It sounds you have it sussed, absolutely.
Yeah.
After the English Channel, then that was 2022. You got back and did some normal Ironman stuff and 7.3s again. You decided to do the Enduroman in 2025. So last year you did the Arch to Arc.
Yeah.
Tell us a wee bit about that event and how you got on during that event.
So Arch to Arc is essentially an endurance event from Marble Arch in London and the finish point being the Arc de Triomphe in Paris. So what it involves is an 87-mile run from Marble Arch to Dover, followed by an English Channel swim, and then 181-mile cycle from Calais to the Arc de Triomphe.
So it's handy enough, sort of a backwards, jumbled up, mad triathlon.
Exactly that.
Did you just say 87-mile run?
I did. Yep.
Then swim the channel.
Correct.
And then fucking cycle all the way.
Yeah.
What's going on in a girl's head that she decides that this is going to be the next adventure? This, again, that sort of mindset, you've already referenced it, Lyndsey, the mindset and how important it is. The idea that you'll set yourself a challenge, knowing that you'll finish the challenge. Were you as confident going into this one then as you were with the previous ones, or did the previous ones actually reinforce your self-belief and give you that confidence and steel that you knew you were going to finish it?
Yeah, I think for me, I thought about it before I applied. You have to apply to get a slot and show you've got endurance, background. And at this point when I applied, I think it was something like, I don't know, I was the 65th person to finish it. So when I applied, say maybe 55 people had done it, and only 13 women. And I thought about it, and I really read into it, and I looked at it. I did my research, and I figured out that most people fail on the swim. So of those that have attempted it, and there have been many that have been unsuccessful, the unsuccessful part was generally the swim. And having had that channel swim in my pocket already, I thought, okay, I can do this. There's no reason I can't do this. I can run, I can swim the channel, and I can ride my bike. It sounds cocky, but it's the kind of mindset that you have to get into to be able to even attempt to start training for this. So yeah, I knew I could do it, but I also knew that there's a lot that can go wrong. So the fear, sorry.
What's the logistics of it? Is this a consecutive event like a triathlon? So run to the channel, swim the channel, get on the bike and continue. Is this a one long continuous triathlon? What's the kind of the breakdown on it, the cutoffs and all that sort of stuff? I'm not that well familiar with it, and I'm sure there's loads of listeners that wouldn't be up to speed with how the actual event is run. So just a couple of seconds just to fill us in on what you were anticipating.
Yeah, so there's certain rules for it to be a success. So it basically all starts, you get your channel swim slot, go ahead. The pilot says we're starting at X time. So for me, it was 8:30 on Wednesday morning. So from that start time on the swim, which is set in stone because of the weather conditions and the tides, that's when you're swimming. So the rules are you can start your run up to 48 hours before that. So you can choose. So I chose to start 36 hours before. I anticipated the run taking me around 24 hours, and then that was allowing 12 hours rest before the swim start. And the same. You then do your channel swim. You then must start. You as a mandatory 3-hour rest after the channel swim, because remember you've got crew with you who also need rest and an official who also needs a rest. And then you must start your swim within 12 hours from a docking in Calais. And then essentially you've got 48 hours to finish the bike ride. So some people do it much quicker and don't take the rest. It's up to you to choose how much rest you take, but that's sort of the limits of what you have to work with. So as I said, I started my run 36 hours before and ran for 22 hours and 53 minutes, I think. So gave myself an extra hour rest, but effectively didn't really rest or sleep that much because you know, the fatigue and the body soreness. You know what it's like after an Ironman, you don't sleep that night very well because you're so sore.
Yeah.
And then by the time you sort all your car out and logistics and swap the run kit to swim kit, etc., and you asked also how it ran. So I have a crew with me in a car for the run who I have to guide myself. I had to guide myself with my Garmin. So I had the route on my watch, and I started at 8:30 on the Tuesday night. The Tuesday night? Sunday? I can't remember, whatever night it was, 36 hours before. And basically guided myself running for 22 hours, which I didn't really stop. I didn't stop at all. I didn't sleep. I stopped for fuel refills and a quick massage, but I didn't essentially stop at all. And my crew leapfrog me in the car and give me whatever I need and basically cater to my every moaning whim. Actually, I didn't moan, I have to say. They said I didn't moan at all. So yeah.
That's unbelievable. The swim, I'm having a bit of a chuckle to myself there because when you were explaining how that was worked out, the mandatory rest and the crew had to have a rest as well. And I was thinking, oh, God love the poor crew. Here's you running fucking 87 miles and then swimming the channel, but the crew needed a wee rest too because they've been in the boat for a long time. God love them.
Well, to be fair, on the run they were driving, and driving through the night. So
there's just something weirdly amusing. I found that to be a bit of
I know.
picture.
They did sleep more than me, I'm sure of it.
I would say so. What about swimming the channel? Because I spent a lot of time around the sea growing up, scuba diving and jumping off cliffs and lapping off piers and whatnot. And there's no 2 days in the ocean the same. Presumably your previous experience of swimming the channel, amazing and lovely and all as it went. I think you talked about it being quite calm and neap tide and all those things. What was it like on that day? Much of a muchness, or was it a different kettle of fish?
No, it was a completely different day. So I did this when wearing a wetsuit, because I was about 10 kilos lighter by now, and with the fatigue of the run, obviously it's harder to keep body heat in. So I chose to wear a wetsuit for this, which is within the rules of Enduroman. You can wear whatever you want. It's not an official channel crossing as I had done before. Just to note that. So started the swim, jumped off the boat, having had not a great sleep and hadn't eaten much following the run, and stupidly wore a new wetsuit. Actually worked out fine, but you know that thing, never do anything new on race day. Me and Enduroman, I've got a new wetsuit, think I'm going to try that. So don't take that as advice. I wouldn't advise it. But anyway, it worked out fine. Started swimming. I'm thinking, God, this new wetsuit's really cool. This is good. I'm flying.
Maybe do a sprint triathlon in your wetsuit first before you tackle the channel.
Yeah. Definitely advise that. But got loads of ocean grease around it. So I didn't actually have any issues with the wetsuit in the end, and had no chaffing, surprisingly. But yeah, started swimming, and obviously I had a spring tide this time. So I don't know how much you know about tides. So a neap tide essentially means the water moves fairly slowly from side to side in the channel, and on a spring tide the flood is much stronger. So I expected more of, you see channel swim maps, it's more of an S shape you take. Yeah. So a neap tide had a quite straight line with a curve at the end, and with a spring tide I had a very strong S shape going on. But I was expecting that. But with that, when you're swimming, you can feel the water behind you at points, So I was like, I swear I'm doing like 110, 100. I'm flying. This is great. I'm going to be done this swim in 12 hours. Going through my head, I thought, I'm going so fast. And it was all going really well until about 12 hours into the swim. And my watch ran out of battery, not that I could really see it anyway, but I was trying to keep a time check to myself by my feeds, right? So you feed after 60 minutes, and then every 30 minutes someone throws you a bottle on a string with a carb drink, or I was drinking hot chocolate with espresso, sometimes with some liquid ibuprofen or paracetamol in it, just to keep anything at bay. So that's the strategy for a channel swim, generally. So in my head, I'm like, okay, that's an hour. Okay, 30 minutes. Okay, it must be about 12, 13, 14 hours. And I noticed that 13, 14 hours, I'm looking up at my crew. It's getting dark. I could tell they'd gone a bit quiet. They're putting on more layers. They're putting hats on. I could tell they're starting to get worried, right? And having had the same crew as I'd had from my other channel swim, who were like overexcited and joyful and enthusiastic when things are going well, I realised, hang on a minute, they're going quiet. They look worried. I'm not worried. I'm still swimming fine. I'm in a wetsuit. I wasn't cold at all. Hadn't had any jellyfish things, but I could tell the conditions were really changing. And with the night coming in as well, I wasn't worried because, as I just said, I felt fine, but I could tell from their mannerisms that this wasn't great.
Mm-hmm.
And I had John Cowell, who had been my coach for Enduroman and was also the Enduroman official on the boat. And I knew the pilot of the boat was a man called Mike Oram. I was in Sea Satin, and I had in my head, because I know how channel swimming works now, because I've followed it for a long time, obviously before I did it and after. And I knew that if conditions got bad, that if I showed any weakness, there was a high chance that the pilot or the official could pull me out of the water for safety reasons. So the waves are getting higher. I could see the flag on the boat flapping furiously in the wind. And I was swimming and thinking, oh shit, this is getting tough. And obviously you swim beside the boat, right? And I'm looking up, and at one point the waves were getting so high, I was getting pushed proper away from the boat. And I found myself sometimes pushed so far out that I was, stopped dead in the water and was just swirling around thinking, shit, is that my boat? I was where I was like, okay, there's no other boat, swim back to the boat. I'd been pushed, maybe 100 metres away or more away from the boat.
Right.
So I knew the conditions were tough. And I could see the lights in France, but I was not getting anywhere close to them. So I wasn't panicking because I was fine. And, my mindset is so strong. Like, I didn't think I couldn't do it, but I was wondering at this point, is this actually swimmable? Not can I swim it, but are these conditions, am I actually ever going to get there? And so I stopped, and I chose my words really carefully, and I said to John, those exact words, I said, is this swimmable? Not can I do it, or, am I going to get there, or how far is it? Because you just show no weakness. And he just said to me, he said, it's swimmable if you give me 30 minutes strong swimming to get through this tide. And I then basically went into like a threshold swim, and I gave it a 90% effort for another 5 hours. Because I was so determined. Like, I was, I had family and friends flying over to Paris, and I was really looking forward to riding my bike in France, and all these things are going through my head. I'm like, oh, I've done all this training, I've been riding that bike, I am not letting this channel beat me. And in my head, I just, I thought to myself, this tide has got to turn eventually, like it's like life, right? It cannot stay the same forever. So all I had to do in that moment was just keep swimming. And things were going through my head. Is like, right, well, if I quit and I get out and I sit in that boat, those 5 hours would still have passed, right? And I would have just been absolutely kicking myself. So these are the things I think about. I think, okay, if I get out and I stop swimming, there's no reason for me to stop swimming. But, my body's fine. So your mind can play tricks on you. It'd be like, you don't need to do this, just get out. But if I had got out and sat in that boat, that time is still going to pass, and I wouldn't have set out to achieve what I wanted to. And I'd never have forgiven myself for doing that. Not that I ever contemplated it. I didn't. I just keep swimming, just keep swimming. The only way I was getting out of that water was if someone pulled me out, and I would have fought with them to stay in. Because I really, I was raising money for charity this time round, and I think I raised £27,000, and I knew that was in my head. And like, I knew like people were watching this challenge because I'd put it out there for charity. There was more people interested in it. And I just couldn't let anyone down, and I couldn't let my kids down. I wanted to inspire them to, to set a goal and go for it, aim high, dream big, all that. Mm-hmm. And I just couldn't quit. So I literally had the hardest 5 hours of my swim ended up being 19 hours and six minutes, right? So I swam in my own head for 19 hours. With the last 5 hours, I didn't learn this till after. When I finally reached the shore, the pilot came in his little dinghy onto the boat, and I reached sand this time, which I've never done in a channel swim. I've always hit rocks. I was like, oh, couldn't. He's like, stand up and walk in. Could not stand. And he said to me, the wind's up at 17 knots. We would never sail in that. He said, essentially, at one point, you were being pushed back to England. You were swimming towards France, but actually going backwards. And I think there was about an hour where I was going backwards. But yeah, the tide turned eventually, or I found another gear, and I just dug in and didn't quit. And I think never give up, and you'll get there eventually. That's my mantra for that. So
I don't know what to say about that. That's just unbelievable. This girl kicks ass. I mean, to go and swim the channel is one thing, but to swim it in those conditions in a spring tide, swimming forwards and getting pushed backwards in conditions that the guy in the boat confesses afterwards, I wouldn't be seen dead out in the boat in the night like that. And here's you. You are made of some hardy stuff, girl. And then, of course, there's the small matter of having to get on a bike then and cycle all the way to Paris.
This is true. And I told myself, if I make the bike, right, I was like, if I make the bike, that's going to be the glory leg. That's going to be so fun, just enjoy it. And I guess with anything, when I'd started the challenge, I was like, oh, I'm going to go for the women's wetsuit world record. And I'd looked at the times and I was like, oh, Joe, okay, my run was under the world record run time for the lady that ran it, not the fastest ever, but on the woman that holds the wetsuit record, my run was an hour faster than hers. So I had sort of, in your head sometimes when you think, oh, I have a secret goal, but I'll not tell anyone about it. Yeah. And so I didn't tell anyone that, not even my coach, because it was a bit of a pipe dream, and it wasn't essentially my goal, but it was, because my goal was to get from arch to arc, right? And that was the only thing I really wanted to achieve, because no one would have cared if I got there in 50 hours or 90 hours, So, and I knew that. But so then after the swim, which I was expecting to do between 12 and 14 hours, after it was 19 hours, I was like, okay, that goal was definitely out the window. Like, I knew there was no chance of making up those hours on the bike. So at that point, I essentially decided, okay, I am actually going to try and enjoy this ride, and I'm just going to take my time. I knew it wasn't going to take me 48 hours, and I would have to have a really bad day for it to take me that. So I set out to just, enjoy it with my crew and try and take in the sights, thinking it would be a nice sunny ride, and I could wear all the nice new cycling kit I bought. Mm-hmm. And Mother Nature had other ideas and decided it was going to piss with rain and be horrendous crosswinds and headwinds the whole way. So my lovely cycle through Paris was not very lovely. It was really, really hard.
But you know what? Hey, I'm actually just thinking here, just listening to this, which is absolutely insane, by the way. Also absolutely amazing and hugely inspiring and motivational. Hence why you're on the podcast to begin with.
Thank you.
But I'm actually thinking about all them people that have done that. And when I say all them people, not that while many people have completed arch to arc, but they might be listening to this and they're thinking, Jesus, that my day out or my race was nothing compared to what this doll has to go through. So, like,
couldn't make it up.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, in itself, it is the daddy of bragging. You know what I mean? Like, but what you had to go through and the conditions that you had to do it in, make it even more special. As horrendous and challenging as it was, now whenever you're looking back, goes, but you probably had a nice sunny day, or you might have had a nice cam. Let me sit down, get yourself a cup of tea till you hear the shit I had to put up with the time I done it. You know what I mean? Like, it just makes it even more epic.
I know. And like, as hard as it was, and by the way, the weather on my run was lovely. Can't complain. It was nice. The run was fairly uneventful, but I loved every minute of it. Like, I had the most incredible crew with me, and they kept my spirits up. They were laughing and joking. I think they all had an amazing time as well. I had, as I said before, my husband and my niece on the boat, and then I also had Andy and Davey from my local physio and gym. One all things medic, and the other all things bike related, and coffee maker, just general amazing people. And what a laugh we all had, you know. And they'll say they'll tell you, and my official will tell you, I never complained once. They told me this after, like, not once did you complain about anything. Like, I didn't complain in the run, I didn't complain I just didn't complain. And you know why? Because how lucky was I to have them all be there to support me and take time off work and to dedicate essentially a week to me, because we didn't get to start, you know, until we got the call from the boat, and then to celebrate with me after. And for, you know, I didn't have any right to complain. Like, I'm blessed that I get to do this. I'm fortunate enough that I'm able to. And yeah, I didn't complain at all. And I genuinely, yeah, it was tough, but I had no reason to moan. I signed up to do it. I wanted to do it. And I was so bloody lucky and fortunate to finish it. And with the most incredible people by my side. And not to forget to mention my travelling support crew, who all travelled to Paris, and my mum and dad, my close friends, and my kids, to celebrate the finish line with me, which was, you know, what's not to love?
Absolutely amazing. That is some story, that is some journey, and that is some podcast up to now, by the way. And we're not finished yet because, I mean, this is the first time we've had a decent chat, and you're not the sort of girl that's just going to pack it up, go, well, I think that's me finished now. No more biking or running or anything. It's just after St. Patrick's Day here in Ireland, so we're in the middle of March, and you've already done 2 70.3s this year already.
Yeah.
You've got some up and coming challenges then penciled in for 2026. And the next one, correct me if I'm wrong, is Lighthouse to Lighthouse. I know rightly those two lighthouses aren't very close together, are they?
They're not very close together, no.
Go on, fill us in. What's Lighthouse to Lighthouse?
So essentially, Lighthouse to Lighthouse Ultra 180 is a new ultra just starting this year, that Paul Robinson, who did Enduroman and set the man's world skins record the year previous to me, has created this. So we're all crazy. And we've got Paul Robinson to thank for this one. So essentially, it is half the distance of Enduroman, but based in the UK. So it is, I think it's a 41-mile run, but over Scafell Pike, and then swim the length of Windermere, and then a glorious cycle to the other lighthouse, via, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like the Yorkshire Dales and Lake District and all those horrible cycling areas that, oh man, I've done the Fred Whitten ones, and if Paul's put any of those routes in there, I might cry, but you know, we'll get it done, and I'm super looking forward to that, to be one of the first to do it this year. Should be incredible race. But yeah, it's not my next one. I've got Venice 70.3 first, and Escape from Alcatraz. But yeah, Lighthouse is placed nicely in the middle of the year.
I forgot about those wee tiny
You
ones.
missed a few out.
Yeah, those sort of events are kind of like, for you,
Yeah,
they're the equivalent of me doing a sprint triathlon.
all right. They don't count. I got it.
Hey, my mind's blown. I want to talk to you about Escape from Alcatraz now, but I haven't finished talking to you about
No,
Lighthouse.
sorry.
Lake Windermere's bloody massive.
Yeah, I know. I don't really, to be honest, I much prefer sea swimming to lake swimming. I actually find lake swimming a little bit, not boring is the wrong word, but yeah, there's less waves, less going on in a lake, right? So I think I really like the risk factor of the unknown. Strangely, most people hate that. A lake is safer, right? There's not going to be sharks, there's not going to be jellyfish, but there's not the same waves and fun. But yeah, I've done Allswater and Coniston, haven't done Windermere, so it's a really good way to tick it off.
Brilliant
So
stuff.
yeah, pop that one in the middle, and that'll be that little trio ticked off.
So let's skip across to, is it San Francisco Bay then for the Escape to Alcatraz?
Yeah, it's just a bucket list race. It's a bass participation one.
You will have the added worry of sharks, I believe, in San Francisco Bay, but I feel sorry for the sharks if they're going to try and tackle you.
Oh, I don't really want to be dinner. But hopefully there's that's a mass participation event. That one, that's an actual race. So I'm hoping they'll go for someone else and leave me alone.
You'll be fine. They'll pick off the weak ones at the back of the pack. You'll be fine. So, the other one then is Catalina Channel Swim. Talk me through that.
Yeah, so this is a big one after this is probably my main goal for this year. After doing the English and Enduro Man, I started to look at, I don't know if you've heard of the Seven Ocean Swims. So like the marathon majors, there's the Seven Ocean Swims. And I know a couple of guys that have done it, and I'm like, is that something I would like to do? But yeah, in a lot of those swims, there's a real possibility of sharks, and also like the North Channel is really freezing, and I'm not actually. Someone said to me at a race recently, when a guy that had attempted Enduro Man and hadn't completed it, unfortunately, because he got too cold in the swim. He said to me, he said, "Oh, you're like the Christian Blumenthal of marathon swimming." He's like, "You don't look like a marathon swimmer, but you somehow managed to do it." And I was like, that made me laugh, because if you look at me, like I don't look like most marathon swimmers look like. But yeah, and I'm going to have to put on a bit of weight. But if I don't think the Seven Oceans for me. But anyway, back to the Catalina, because I digress. Catalina is one of the Seven Ocean swims. It's from Catalina Island back to the mainland. So that was one that was of interest to me. And also another swim which is linked to that is the Manhattan 20 bridges, which I have. So I have them penciled in a month apart. So Catalina I'm going to attempt at the end of August, and Manhattan 20 bridges is at the end of September. It's not a Seven Ocean swim, but the reason that I've linked both of them together is because the English Channel, Catalina Channel, and the Manhattan 20 bridges is known as the Triple Crown of marathon swimming.
Brilliant.
So a separate thing from the Seven Oceans, but ticks off another one if it's a route I decide to go down, which I said before, I'm not convinced it is. So Catalina, very similar to the English Channel in terms of distance. It's only, I think, 0.8 of a mile shorter. Actually, surprisingly to me, probably surprisingly similar temperature. Like, I thought it was going to be much warmer, but no, it's not. Maybe
Okay.
1 or 2 degrees warmer. But with the same risks and the same challenges as the English Channel in terms of tides and weather, but with the added risk of marine life. Yeah, there is. The week I signed the contract, an Englishman attempting it actually got bitten by a great white.
Oh, Christ.
So up until that point, no marathon swimmer had ever been attacked, but it is a great white breeding ground. So they are present in there, and that is. I actually just had to sign my disclaimer thing today, and it's, you're basically saying if I get bitten by a shark, then it's no one's fault except my own. And I'm not worried about sharks until he got bitten, and I'm like, okay, well, if it is now a possibility, and that's something I'm going to have to try and get my head around majorly. And I spoke to someone else that's done it already, and he did it previous to the shark bite, and he's like, oh, it's amazing, but you need to prepare for like jumping fish. He's like, you don't see much in the English Channel, but the marine life over there is, it's meant to be crazy. Like, I'm going to see a lot. So that's an added challenge for me, and not something I can say I'm massively like into swimming with all these things, but yeah, it's just another challenge. And
The extremes are getting turned up, definitely. And I don't suppose there's any probable. Well, I can't think of a way that you can train for meeting such exotic marine life. I mean, you can't really prepare for that, I guess, until you're put in that situation.
yeah, I think you just have to get in and not think about it and hope that it doesn't happen. I don't mind the jumping fish. I just don't want anything to bite me, like, or eat me, or kill me, or worse.
Oh, no,
Like, I don't
bite
mind seeing
me.
the pretty things, but
Bite me is like as a throwaway statement that sometimes you make. Bite me. Um, I
I
guess
don't know.
you could get someone maybe to follow you in the boat and then just randomly jump on top of you from the boat just to scare the shit out of you, just to see how you cope. But
I know. Well, yes. Okay, I'll get someone to do. I'll get someone to do that. I can think of a few people that would happily do that to me.
wow.
But yeah, that's that's a major challenge that I have to get my head around this year, and also do the swim training for, which I have started already.
So you've
But
got
yeah,
Lighthouse to Lighthouse, which is a 180 ultra. You've got the Catalina Channel swim, which is just over 20 miles of swimming with marine life. We'll refer to them. It's like
yep.
no,
Don't say that word.
yeah, don't say the word. the 20 bridges swim around Manhattan. That's enough, is it not, for this year?
Well, I mean, it should be. Don't tell my husband about all these events. I'm going to get in trouble.
Right.
I hope
If
he
you're
doesn't listen
listening
to
to this
this.
in the car, change the channel. Turn it
Change it
over.
about now.
Yeah, put on Planet Rock.
No, I'll be getting divorced just shortly. I joke. He's very supportive, and he will be there. He don't worry. He knows about Manhattan, my 50k challenge, and yeah, I'm only kidding. He does know about the ones after that. These are just penciled in after that. Obviously, I'll see how the body feels.
So
But
you have a few 70.3s, and are you looking to go for a full distance triathlon this year as well, possibly?
so I've penciled in Oman in December, Ironman Oman. But given the current situation, we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that's the goal. I've got a few friends racing that, which would be fun. Just to round off the year. I like to race a lot. I love an event day.
Oh, you certainly do. You absolutely certainly do. Lyndsey, this is unreal. I've really, really genuinely enjoyed this chat. Do you know what my mind's kind of blown a wee bit, because if we go right back to the start, albeit you did a bit of swimming whenever you were a kid, but you didn't get really into any of this kind of stuff until after you had 3 kids of your own. Your 3 children. What would you say to someone who's maybe lost themselves, shall we say, in the way that's the way you described it, that you
Yeah, for
kind
sure.
of had a sense that you didn't know who you were. You had your new identity as mum, and that was okay, but you needed something else. Or
I think, from when you're a mum, it's easy to put everyone else first. It's easy to be the last one to fill your own cup. You look after your kids, you look after the house. I was a stay-at-home mum, so, you look after the dog and your husband and your parents and all your friends, and no one, you forget to look after yourself, and you forget that, time passes, and obviously I lost my good friend, and I realised that time is not infinite. You don't know how long you're going to have your health for, so I think if there's something you want to do or try, why put it off? Like, there is time. We can make time. I know not everyone's not the support network I've got, but we can all find time to put the baby in the pram and go for a walk, or maybe start that up to a jog, or whatever it is you want to try. Like, don't wait till you're too old and and then you possibly maybe can't, like my friend, she doesn't have that chance anymore. And also, my kids are now 15, 17 and 18, and I am so grateful that I started this journey when I was 30, or whatever age I was. But I mean, I could start it now, but there's why would I have, I could still start it now, but I'm grateful that I didn't, and I did it, and I've made it 90% my personality. And for me as well, like my 18-year-old daughter, she just turned 18 in January, and I said to her, what do you want for your birthday? What do you want for your 18th, Daisy? And she's like, oh mum, I'd really like a Ironman 70.3 entry. And
brilliant.
so, through all my training and commitment to racing and setting myself challenges, I've inspired my daughter to want to do, to be one of the youngest to do a 70.3. And we're going to race Venice together in May. And that's going to be the coolest experience for me, getting to race alongside my daughter. And I think what I would say to women is, remember that everything we do, we inspire someone else, right? And we should all be supporting each other, lifting each other up and inspiring each other, instead of sitting gossiping, putting each other down, which I know a lot of people do. It's not healthy. Like, get out, go do it, and inspire each other, support each other, and have fun. Like, life's for living.
That's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Lyndsey, thank you so much for agreeing to come on to the podcast and sharing your journey. I'm super excited to see the adventures unfold over the next sort of 9 months, and
What
beyond.
have I done to myself?
No, if anyone's going to smash this, you are 100%.
Yeah, I am.
You absolutely are. I wonder if everything goes according to plan, and you don't have any significant encounters with marine life, you might consider coming back onto the podcast maybe at the end of the year to give us a wee 10-minute update. That would
I'd
be
love to.
fantastic.
If the sharks don't get me, I'll be back.
Don't say the S word, for Christ's sake.
Oh, I know. They're terrifying.
Lyndsey, would it be okay for me to pop your Instagram details in the description of the podcast so people can follow your journey?
Absolutely, please do. I'll try and get better at updating it.
Mighty stuff. Lyndsey, take care of yourself. All the very best for your training and go smash those events.
Thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed it.